Dear friends, so welcome to the next session. In this session, we will be looking into how to initialize an object. Okay, that means how to add values to an object. Alright, so in our previous example of classes, objects and methods, we saw how we could create a particular method and then create a particular object and instantiate it. Okay, here we will see how to basically initialize the objects. Okay, how to initialize the objects. Now talking about initialization, so objects can be initialized in three possible ways. The first one is by the using reference variables. When we use reference variables, we can initialize that particular object. The second one is by using methods. Okay, this is another way how we can initialize the object. And the third part is by using constructors. Okay, so constructors we will not be discussing in today's session because that is something which we will be taking up in the constructors session. Okay, when we will do constructors, then we will look into it into detail. All right, so now let us see the first one. That means how do we initialize a particular object using reference variables. So for this we will follow the previous program, which is class birds, and then I'll simply initialize the class. I mean, that means I'll simply create the class for it. So class birds is there. Now when we are talking about initializing the objects, that means I'm putting some value, some attribute values into my object. Okay, so in our class we considered PAR or pair as a particular object, and we created and instantiated it. Now we have to add certain attribute values into it. So we will take two different variables for it. One is string color. That means I will display the color of my object PAR and also the age of the object or my bird PAR. Okay, so for that I have declared two reference variables, which is color and age, and then I will write the main program. Okay, public static void main. So by now this should always be there in your mind that there has to be a main program, I mean main method, from which the actual execution of your program will start. Okay, so here now you have to create a object. So this is how I will create an object using the new keyword of the birds class, and I have instantiated it. Okay, now how do I initialize it? I will be using the object name with the dot operator, and I will be just fitting in values to my variables. Color of my parrot is green. Okay, so that is a string. I have put it within inverted commas here, so you have seen this. Okay, now the age of my parrot is 5. Okay, so since it is an integer value, I do not need this particular inverted commas. Okay, so this is how I have now initialized the values of color and age of the bird object, of the object PAR of the birds class. Okay, now let us print this. Okay, system dot out dot println. So what I'll do is I will simply use PAR dot COLOUR and use a concatenation, and then I'll give a space, and then I'll have a concatenation for PAR dot AGE. Now if you look into this, and then I'll simply close this particular brace. Now let me save this. Okay, so once I have saved this, kindly look into this program once again. I have declared the reference variables, and then I have created an object PAR of the birds class, and then I have initialized the values of the attributes. Okay, that is the color I have kept as green, and age I have kept as 10. Okay, so and then I'm trying to print this. So let us first compile the program and see if there are any problems with it. So when I'm compiling it, it is not throwing me any error, which means that I can easily go ahead with the execution of this. Okay, so when you will execute this, you will see that the color of my object PAR is being printed. Okay, so this is one of the very classical examples of how you can go ahead with initializing the object, okay, using reference variables. Now the next possible method or the next possible way of how you can actually initialize a particular object is by making use of methods. So let us see that as well. So for this, by making use of methods, now we will use the same program, so there is no need to retype everything. So first of all, I have to declare two different variables, reference variables here, and then I will create a method. Okay, so this is how I'll create a method. Void, let's say display object. Okay, so void display object. So as already mentioned, the method name, the first letter of the method name should be small, and if there are two words, then we can make the second the first letter of the second word as capital. Okay, so here what I'll do is I will use two parameters for passing. So I'll use string col comma and int age. Okay, so these are the two things I have done first. Okay, now first I have created a method, okay, which is for my object as disobj. Okay, and then I have used string col. So col is one variable which I am using so that I can pass the value into this, and ag is another parameter variable which I am using so that I can pass the value into this as well. So now what I'll do is colour, the reference variable, is equal to, I will pass the value of my reference variable into, I will pass the value of my col parameter into the variable color. Okay, and also the age is equal to ag, which means whatever is captured with captured in ag parameter, whatever value is captured in this particular parameter, it will be passed to the age variable which I have already declared. So now here I will leave this method here and I will create another method which is void display color. Okay, so void display color. So this has no parameter list within itself or argument list within itself. So here what I'll do, I'll simply type system.out.println, and here I will print the value of this color. Okay, this one. So because whatever value has been captured by col will be stored in color, so now my job will be to print the color value of the color variable. Okay, so here again I'll put some space, or you can also give a new line here, so it is up to you. So I'm keeping just a space here. So color as well as the age. Okay, so this is it. Now from my main method, now I have already created a particular method. Okay, so instead of initializing the values here, I will pass my values from the main method to the respective this disobj, this object method. Okay, and after that, let me see. Okay, so first I'll just delete this. All right, and then what I'll do is I have created this object and I will call the first method disobj, and I will pass the value. So first value that I have to pass is of string type. Okay, so here what I'm doing is green, and comma, the second value which I have to pass is of integer type. So what I'll do is I'll give as 10. Okay, so now this is done. So I have passed my values of my object, okay, passed the values of my object green and 10 into this particular method, and once these variables, these arguments receive my values, they will be storing the values to this particular variables which I have already declared initially. Okay, and after that the next method which I will be calling is display color. Okay, so here what I'll do is I will simply call the the method name is not correct, display color. So here what I'll do is I'll simply call the next method which is actually trying to print the values of the variables, okay, which is already being initialized in the main method. All right, so let us now save this and run this particular program, and just first of all let's compile it. We'll have to see whether it is okay or not. So when I'm executing this, I'm finding there is no error, so I can go ahead with the execution. All right, now see, I'm getting the same result as I got in my previous program. So these are the two different ways by which you can actually initialize an object. Most generally, we also initialize an object using constructors. Constructors, we will be talking in details about this particular topic, and then we will be looking into how we can initialize this object. So as of now, we just have to remember that one of the most easiest way of referencing of initializing an object is by making use of reference variables. But if we feel that we need certain methods so that it becomes easier for us to compute and calculate, because everything if we write inside the main method, it will not be a very good job from programming point of view. So we will be creating different methods for it. All right, so once this is done, we will be able to initialize any object by passing the values from the main method into the other methods which are existing within the same class. So this is all for this session. We will discuss on some higher concepts in our next session. Thank you.